Welcome back to Mae Sot, Thailand. It is Saturday, January 23rd, I think, and I'm doing something that it feels like I haven't done for a long time. Just walk along the streets here in Mae Sot. Ever since I rented the scooter, I've really turned into a scooter guy, and I take the scooter everywhere. So now that I'm walking down the street again, it feels like kind of a brand new experience. I guess there was a period there of a few days or a week maybe when I didn't post any videos. To be honest, I didn't even realize it. I was just living my life as usual. And it wasn't until people left comments wondering what I've been doing and why there hasn't been a video lately that I realized that so many days had gone by. So I thought I would do a quick life update, I guess. I'm on my way to the Braverly coffee shop. I just thought I'd go there like old times, pre-scooter times, get a nice cappuccino, sit down and enjoy it. I'm going to Braverly mainly because they do have some outdoor seating where I can sit and chat into the camera without bothering other people. I was trying to think of another place I could go, a coffee shop with some kind of a garden setting where I can sit by myself and not annoy people, but I can't think of one. So I'm just going to go to Braverly. They don't have a garden there, but they do have some seats kind of away from the main coffee shop, and nobody ever sits there that I can tell. It's beside this main road and pretty loud at times with the traffic, but I can deal with that. So where did those 5 days or that week go? Well, 2 or maybe 3 days were involved in applying for a new visa extension here in Thailand. In the past, I've talked about my visa situation here in Thailand quite a bit, and I've gone to the immigration office with my GoPro a couple of times. So this time I just left my GoPro behind. I just went there on my own. Easier this time, of course, now that I have the scooter. I didn't have to worry about how to get to immigration. Just hopped on my scooter, zoomed out there, and as I said, I just didn't want to bother with the GoPro this time. But there was some small drama, as there always is, connected with applying for this visa extension. It's officially called an extension of stay. And the last time I went into the immigration office, I got a 60-day extension of stay based on my original tourist visa, which I got a long, long time ago. And the last time I got the 60-day extension of stay, they told me that I could just get another one fairly routinely. I asked them about that, and they said, yeah, absolutely. You can get 60 days this time, and when 1 or 2 weeks before this extension expires, come back, fill out the forms, pay the fee, and you can get another 60-day extension of stay. And nobody knew what would happen beyond that, but it was looking fairly good that I could get this second extension fairly easily. But I still had to get all the paperwork. I had to make photocopies of everything, make sure I have all the copies, make sure I have the money to pay for the extension, basically get organized, and I did that the day before. But the one wrinkle, and this was pretty worrisome, is that in recent days, there was this newspaper article that kind of got published in one place online and then got picked up by a whole bunch of other people, where a government official in Thailand announced that all visa applications and visa extensions for foreigners would now require a negative COVID-19 test. Someone just came out of the blue and announced that. And as I said, this story was picked up all over the place, and it was being reported everywhere because this official made the announcement. And of course, there was the usual panic and confusion and uproar amongst the expats, living in Thailand. And nobody knew what was going on anymore. Everybody was worried. How do I get a COVID-19 test? How much is it going to cost? How long are the results valid for? What kind of paperwork do I need to certify that I got the test and bring it to immigration? Does it have to be signed by a lawyer or a doctor? Or nobody knew what was going on, as usual. So there was a lot of panic and confusion. And I tried to, stay out of it as best I could. There's really not a lot you can do to control these situations. So I was worried about that a little bit. And then I think maybe the day before I went in, or something like that, this same government official made a second announcement, and he said that his first announcement was wrong. He had spoken out of turn, and in fact, this requirement for a COVID-19 test was not required for all visa extensions. It was something they were considering for certain classes of visas or something. Anyway, he announced that we all needed to get a COVID-19 test. And then I guess a couple of days later, he came back, gave a second interview and says, no, I was wrong. You don't have to get this COVID-19 test. So now everyone was very glad to hear that. But of course, that made me wonder, what kind of situation was I going to face when I finally went to immigration here in Mesa. And it turned out that I had a very good experience at the immigration office, probably the best experience I've ever had there. They've always been quite good and professional. And this time when I walked in the door, there was a new woman. I think she was a new kind of intern there training, and she was standing behind the counter, sort of an information reception counter that they have. And when I walked through the door, she gave me a big, friendly and welcoming smile. I just thought that was amazing. I just felt, that's a very, very good sign. I love it when I get a smile when I walk into a place. I smiled back, of course, and of course you couldn't see that I was smiling because I was wearing the mask. So yeah, she gave me this big smile of welcome. I went in, and I didn't ask about this COVID-19 test. I just basically went through the normal procedures, and nobody brought it up. So this requirement was not real. At least if it is real, it hasn't become official yet, and it hasn't reached the Mesot office. So I was able to fill out all the forms. And of course, I had my usual issues. It's funny, I went in there this time determined to fill out the TM7 form and not make a single mistake on it. I was going to do it right this time. I'd filled out this form multiple times already, so you think I'd have it figured out. And I thought I did. And I thought, okay, this time I'm not going to make a single mistake. So I was so careful. I was reading everything. I was analyzing this form because you got the Thai labels and then the English labels telling you what to fill in where. And I always made mistakes in the past. This time I said, no, I'm not going to make any mistakes. But I made mistakes all over the place, all over again. It's just so crazy. I'm just filling in the dates, and I'm filling in the wrong date in the wrong space in the wrong place. I'm filling it in above when it's supposed to be below. I fill in one line with my address, and then I realize, oh, my address is supposed to go down here. This is for something else, but I don't know what goes up there. Yeah, that TM7 has defeated me every time I've gone to immigration. I've never filled it out properly once. But anyway, I did my best. And there were some other forms I still had to fill out. There was this affidavit that appeared a few months ago where, it's a complicated story, but there was a period in time when we had to get a letter from our embassy. They announced that everybody had to get a letter from your embassy, caused all kinds of panic and confusion. And then at the last minute, they said, no, nobody does need to get the letter anymore. They extended the amnesty and the letter requirement just kind of disappeared. And instead of the letter requirement, you had to fill out this simple form that was like an affidavit, something about you wanting to stay in Thailand because of the pandemic. And they have a list of boxes and you have to check one box. And the last time I went in, I read through all of my options and none of them applied to me. Not a single option matched my situation. So I didn't know what to fill out, so I just left it blank. I filled in my name and I signed it and I dated it, but I never actually made a choice. And this time I had to do the same thing because they handed me this affidavit all over again. I had to fill out the affidavit and then I had to pick an option. One option was my embassy refuses to give me this letter. That's not true because the letter isn't required anymore. The other option was you cannot return to your home country because there are no flights. Technically, that's not true. You can't return to your home country because they won't let you in because of the pandemic. That's not true. And through all the choices, none of them applied to my situation. But again, rather than ask them about it, because I did ask them last time and I didn't get an answer that made sense. So this time I just left it blank again. I filled it out, signed it on the bottom, but I didn't make a choice and gave them the stack of papers and yeah, they were fine with it. And I paid the fee, they took my picture, and I got a stamp in my passport that said my application was under consideration and I had to return in 2 weeks on February 4th I have to go back on February 4th, bring my passport, and then they will stamp the 60-day extension of stay in my passport. Of course, by then it won't be 60 days anymore. It'll be, 60 days minus 14, but it amounts to the same thing. And yeah, so that was the story of my trip to immigration this time. Everything went smoothly. It was a pleasant experience from beginning to end. Everyone there was professional, helpful, friendly, answered all of my questions. Of course, my one question is, will I be able to get another 60-day extension after this one? And to that question, they had no answer because everything is changing here in Southeast Asia. There's been an increase in the infection rates in Thailand, in Malaysia, in quite a few different countries, I think. And there are new restrictions being in place, new guidelines, new rules being implemented. There's a lot going on. So by the time this 60-day extension expires, I have no idea what the situation will be. Just have to wait and see what happens by then, how much the situation has changed. At the end of that story, I've arrived at Braverly. There it is across the road. I've shown quite a bit of the interior and exterior of this place in the past, so I won't do a big tour or anything. But here is the sign for the Braverly coffee shop. They also serve food here as well. It's quite popular with Western expats here in Mesa. And this is the outdoor seating that I mentioned. And I think I'll end up sitting out here as I continue my life update. But first, let's head inside and get a iced cappuccino. So before I head outside, just thought I'd show you the interior in case you hadn't seen this place before. But this is the seating for Braverly. And they also have kind of a handicraft section here where they sew a lot of products like these for sale. This is part of kind of an NGO, social enterprise organization. And there's a really nice place to sit here with just the sofas. Anyway, I'm gonna head outside. My iced cappuccino has arrived. Whew, looking forward to this. Nice. They do make a good iced cappuccino here. They really do. In the last few days, I also went on a day trip. I posted one of the videos from that day trip this morning, and the second half of it, I guess, will be posted tomorrow morning on Sunday morning. I ended up dividing the video into two parts again because I shot a lot of video. It wasn't like it was such a huge adventure that it required two 45-minute videos to capture the whole experience, but I just had the GoPro running pretty much the entire day on my ride out to the national park and then all the way back again to Mesot. And most of that experience is in the video. As I said, the main reason I went to the national park was to see the big tree. It's a krabak tree, which, according to what I read, could be the largest tree in Thailand. Though when I got to the park, the signs there said it was the largest krabak tree in Thailand. So not the largest tree overall, though it could be, I don't know. But they do say it's the oldest, or the largest krabak tree. And it was pretty impressive. I really enjoyed seeing that tree. It was an interesting experience. And I mean, I enjoyed the drive to the park a lot. I mean, that was the main reason I went, just for the fun of going somewhere, driving there. But seeing the tree was very cool as well. I didn't know if I would stay overnight when I got there. I couldn't quite get clear information on what was possible because of all the new restrictions. And even if it wasn't a case of travel restrictions, I wasn't sure what was involved in terms of camping there or staying in a lodge or even staying in a room in a nearby town. I did a little bit of Google searching for information about that, but I didn't come up with anything definitive, so I didn't know what I was going to do. So I packed up as if I would be staying overnight, just in case. If I saw someplace that was convenient or easy, I'd grab a room and stay there overnight. That would make the day more relaxing. But I thought I could just as easily drive there and then come back to Mesot at the end of the day, which is what I ended up doing. The interesting part of the trip, though, were the checkpoints that I ran into along the way. There were two of them leaving Mesot, and then when I came back, I had to go through both of them again. And interestingly enough, I had a different experience on the way out compared to coming back. On the way out, at the first checkpoint, they just asked basic questions, you know, where are you from, where are you coming from, and where are you going, and that's it. And after those questions, the soldier or the police officer or the official, whoever it was, stood aside and indicated that I could drive on. At the second one, they pulled me to the side of the road, and it was a little bit more official, where they asked to see my passport and they checked my visa to make sure my visa was current, and they took a picture of my scooter's license plate and a picture of me standing beside the scooter. I had to take off my helmet and take off my mask so they could take a picture of me and they compare it to the passport. And then when that was all done, I was free to go. But when I came back this way towards Mesot, at that checkpoint, they did the same thing. They took pictures of the scooter from the front and from the back. They took pictures of me without the helmet and without the mask. They checked my passport and then they let me go. But then at the final checkpoint coming into Mesot, it was much more official, where they did all that, all the same photographs, checking my passport, all that kind of thing. But then the official asked me to follow him, and so I had to lock up my scooter, go with him, and he took me across the highway to this big area with a bunch of tents. And inside the tents, there was a big range of desks set up. And there were all these people sitting at these desks behind plastic barriers at computers, and everyone leaving Mesot and I guess going into Mesot had to come over to this tented area and sit down there and go through a fairly intense interview, and all of your answers were recorded on a computer record. So of course they wanted to see my passport to start with. All of that information was entered into the computer. They asked me for my phone number, that was entered, my address in Thailand. They put all that in. And then they wanted to know about my travel history, where I'd been staying, of course, temperature check, and my temperature was recorded as well, where I was going, how long I was going to stay there, how many nights, all that information. It was pretty intense, very thorough interview with a lot of information taken. And the funny part was they wanted to know where I had come from. And I tried to tell them I'd started my day in Mesot. I drove to this national park, Thaksin Maharat National Park, spent the day there, and now I'm driving back to Mesot. But they didn't understand what I said, so I had to say it again and again. And they kept asking, well, where did you go, or where have you come from? And I kept saying, Thaksin Maharat National Park. But this didn't mean anything to them because, of course, they don't know the name in English. If I said the name in Thai, they'd probably understand. But I finally had what I thought was a brainstorm, because I had the brochure from the national park in my knapsack. And I thought, I can just show them the brochure to show them where I'd come from. So I got out the brochure, and I'm handing it through the slot to the guy, and he kind of went, oh, hey, no. Put it in the basket. It's got to go in the basket. He wouldn't take it from my hands, so I had to put it in the basket. And he pulled it through on the basket, and they kind of sanitized it. And then he picked up the brochure, and then he looked at it, and he still didn't seem to understand what it was. The whole brochure, or most of it, was in English. Maybe that was the problem. But anyway, he looked at the park brochure. He's like, he showed it to other people, and it's like they talked about it for a while. And then he put it back in the basket, handed it back to me. And then eventually I was allowed to go back to my scooter and drive into Mesot. But what struck me about this checkpoint was, on my way out of Mesot, I had gone through that same checkpoint. If I look back at the video now that I made from my trip, and I can see this tented area on the left. But as I was leaving Mesot, they didn't ask me to go into that tent to do this interview process. I was allowed to just leave. I wasn't even aware that this place existed. I didn't see it. But it was on the way back, on the way into Mesot, when I was on the far side of the highway, that's when they asked me to go over there and do the whole interview. So it seemed a bit weird to me. I thought it would be more serious coming from this area going into Thailand, because they're concerned about people coming from Myanmar. But they didn't seem to be worried about me leaving Mesot, but they were quite worried about me going into Mesot. But for whatever reason, that's how things worked out. And I just had to go through the checkpoints on the way out, on the way back. But I made it through without any problem, though it was a little bit of an uncomfortable experience. It wasn't quite in balance with the tone of the day. I was just being a goofy tourist. Hey, I'm a tourist. I'm going to go on a day trip to the national park and then drive there, drive back, and have a fun day. But then you're suddenly faced with all these checkpoints and interviews and temperature checks and all that kind of thing. And it starts to feel like you're doing something that they don't want you to do. They don't want you to be out traveling around the country. They want you to stay put right now because of the resurgence of the pandemic and all the travel restrictions. So I mean, I made it through the checkpoints okay, there was no problem with what I did, but at the same time, by the end of the experience, you're thinking, it's probably not such a great idea to be doing that. This isn't the right time to be out wandering around doing day trips. At least not day trips taking you that far away from Mae Sot going into Thailand. But it was a good day though. I enjoyed it very much. Another reason, I guess, that I hadn't posted a video for a few days is I was involved with some other adventures, some typical technology adventures. Technology seems to occupy so much of my brain power in my life lately. And I guess that's because there have been some big changes. And every time you make a big change in technology, there's always a lot of follow-up small changes that have to come next. So, for example, I bought this new phone a couple of months ago, and I had issues with the phone at the beginning in terms of glitches. So I ended up doing this big factory reset to try and clear out some of the problems I was having. And because I did the factory reset and I was a bit concerned about how this phone was going to work out, I never did the complete transfer of my life from my old phones over to the new one, such as moving over the SIM card, moving over all of the apps that I use, all the email, and then I have so many things that I use. Some of them I haven't used for a long time, apps like Booking.com and Traveloka and all these apps you use for booking flights, booking hotels, making reservations. I have a ton of storage sites online for photographs and videos. I've got kind of online sites that I use for storing my journal. I've got apps that I use for messaging people, of course, everything from Facebook to Gmail to Hotmail to Facebook Messenger, various accounts. You got WhatsApp. You've got so many things that you use these days, and transferring all of them from my old phones to my new one, I knew it was going to be a bit of a project. So I kept procrastinating. I kept putting it off because I just couldn't face it. But finally, this past week, I decided to get it done. And I don't know, did it take a full day, a day and a half, 2 days? It took a long time, mainly because I run into so many security barriers. Because when you uninstall one of these apps and try to install it on a new phone or make a major change, like changing your phone number, security measures kick in that are above and beyond the normal security measures. So all of these apps kept wanting to send me security codes, and the only way they'll do it is by text message, and to do it by text message they have to have a phone number. So I ended up in all these weird situations because my phone number keeps changing. When I go to a new country, I get a new SIM card, which means I have a new phone number, and my old phone number expires and doesn't work anymore. So the phone number I had registered with a lot of these online apps were phone numbers from the Philippines, from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from wherever I was at the time that I installed them. And now, before I can do anything, I have to change the phone number from the old one to the new phone number. But in order for me to be able to do that, they have to send me a text message to confirm that it's really me doing it. But they have to send it to my old phone number, which doesn't exist anymore. So, time and time again, I ran into these issues and I had to find ways of getting around them, and it wasn't easy to do, and it took a long time. Each application seemed to have a new challenge for me to overcome. And then you get applications like WhatsApp, which for me are the most confusing at all. Because at least with something like Facebook or Facebook Messenger, you have an account. And the account is separate from the device. You can log into that account on multiple devices just using your username, password, security code, and authenticator code, all that kind of stuff. You can log in on multiple devices. But with WhatsApp, your account ID is your phone number. And that means there's all kinds of more complications. So I wanted to do two things. I wanted to move WhatsApp from my old phone to my new phone, and I needed to change the phone number to my new phone number. So I was doing two things at the same time. I sat there in my room with a cup of coffee and a notebook and a pad of paper, and I'm reading all the instructions from WhatsApp, and I'm drawing diagrams, trying to figure out the logic of the steps I need to follow in order to get this done. And I could not figure it out. Like, before I did it, I could not figure out how to transfer WhatsApp from one phone to my new phone. I just could not make sense out of it. The logic just eluded me. And eventually, since I couldn't figure it out, I just had to do it. I just had to take a chance and just guess at what I needed to do, and then do this, then get this security code, change that, then do that, then do this, then do that. Do this backup, get a code for that backup, and reinstall it, and download it, and reconnect, and do all these things I needed to do. And I had no idea what I was doing. And at the end, it actually worked out. So I now have WhatsApp on this phone with my Thailand phone number. The only wrinkle was that my entire history got lost. So all of my previous, the records of all the chats that I've had with people, all the exchanges that I've had with people, all of that was vanished because somehow my backup was on my old phone and I couldn't transfer it down to my new phone. So I lost my entire WhatsApp history, but that doesn't really matter that much. But anyway, that I think that was 2 days of my life, just sitting down with my two phones and transferring my life from my old phone over to my new one. So no videos were uploaded to YouTube during that period either. As big a project as that was, it actually pales in comparison to my next technology adventure, and that involves switching my video editing app. I currently do all of my video editing on my smartphone because I still haven't purchased a new laptop. I don't know if I ever will. I'm pretty happy just using a smartphone, to be honest. It's kind of nice not having a laptop in my life. And the video editing that I do is quite easy and quite simple overall. I don't need a laptop to do it. Works just fine on a phone. However, I ran into a real problem with the program that I was using, and I decided to switch to a new one. I'll try and keep this as simple as I can. It's kind of hard to describe in words. But I was using a program called PowerDirector. And there are a lot of great things about PowerDirector. I can heartily recommend it to a lot of people. It has a lot of good features. It works really well. Overall, I was quite pleased with it. And when you buy the professional version, like when you get the license for it, you get access to a really nice selection of music and stock photos and stock video clips. So I was pretty happy with PowerDirector, except for one problem. And that problem turned out to be a deal breaker. And stick with me here. The issue is that when you create a video, you've got different tracks. So there's one track that has all of your main video clips in it. That's really the video. All the video that I shoot on the GoPro goes on the foundation track. Call it track number 1. There it all is. And then you start adding new elements. You might add in photographs. You might add in text. You might take other video clips and add them to a layer. So you end up with your long video And then you might have 50 or 100, depending on how complex your video is, other elements all through it on these other layers. And in PowerDirector, for reasons I can't possibly comprehend, those two levels are not attached. So you put in, say you put in 50 photographs, and you put those photographs precisely where you want them in your video, that's great. But then if you go into your video and you remove something, say you delete a clip because you decide you don't want it, or you shorten it, or you lengthen it, if you do anything at all to your video, all of your 50 photographs are now out of place. So if you delete 2 seconds from your main video, all 50 photographs are now 2 seconds out of sync. And you have to go through your entire video one by one and move that photograph 2 seconds. Next one, over, 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 over. All the text elements, you have to move them 2 seconds. So you think you're finally done. It's like, oh, I'm finished. But then you realize, oh shoot, I meant to put this little video clip at the beginning. I forgot to do it. So you add a 10-second clip at the beginning of your video. All 50 photos, all 50 text elements, all your songs, everything you added is now out of sync by 10 seconds. And you got to go through that whole process all over again. Move everything over by 10 seconds. And I looked for a solution to this problem. I went into the forums, I asked questions. People either had no idea what I was talking about. Those that did know what I was talking about said, hey, that's just how PowerDirector works. There's nothing you can do about it. And if you're making a short video, a simple video, it's not really a problem. If you have 5 items in your video and you have to move them to get them back in sync, that's not really a big deal. You can move all 5 of them and you're done. And every time you make a change, you just go back and move all 5 of them again. But if you've done something a little bit more complex and you have 20, 30, or 40 items in the layers, it quickly becomes a nightmare. So I started looking for an alternative, and my alternative search quickly brought me back to another program that I tried out before called Kinemaster, or some say Kinemaster. I still don't know what the proper pronunciation is. I'm just going to call it Kinemaster for now. And I originally liked Kinemaster a lot better than PowerDirector for various reasons. But the main problem with Kinemaster is that it is resource hungry. To use Kinemaster, you need a really powerful phone. And my phone is not powerful enough to run Kinemaster with 4K video. It just can't do it. I didn't realize that when I bought this phone. I just assumed it would be able to handle 4K video because it can handle 4K video in PowerDirector. So I thought, sure, okay, it can handle 4K video, but in Kinemaster, it can't. So that's why I was using PowerDirector. But lately, to be honest, I don't even shoot in 4K anymore. It's just too much work. The files end up being huge. And now I've been shooting in 1080p anyway. And since I'm shooting in 1080p, I thought, well, that means I can go back to using Kinemaster. So I installed Kinemaster and I got a license for it. I bought the Pro license for Kinemaster. And I had to take a couple of projects that I was working on in PowerDirector and change them all over to, and rebuild them basically in Kinemaster and learn how to use Kinemaster. It had been a while since I'd used the application, so it wasn't fresh in my mind. And since I'd used Kinemaster in the past, I'd started doing a lot more complex things in my video editing. In particular, shooting with 2 GoPros at the same time requires a whole different approach, and I had to learn all kinds of new techniques in Kinemaster to handle that. So that's where another 2 or 3 days went. trying to fix PowerDirector, realizing I couldn't fix PowerDirector, then switching to Kinemaster. That took another 2 or 3 days of my life to get all that done. But I'm happy to say that it is all done now, and I'm happily using Kinemaster. And yeah, I'm very, very pleased. Kinemaster really is a better program for me to use. It has so many features that PowerDirector doesn't have, but it has meant a pretty steep learning curve, learning how to use it all over again. So that's where that's where more of my time went the past week or so. I just realized that I said that I switched to Kinemaster from PowerDirector, but I didn't really say why. And the reason why is that this problem in PowerDirector, where the elements are not connected to the video, that doesn't exist in Kinemaster. In Kinemaster, it just works like a normal video editing program, the way all video editing programs are supposed to work, that if you have your video and then you put in a photograph, and then you change something in the video or move it around, the photograph moves with it. So if you delete something in your timeline and all your videos move to the left, all the photos, everything you added into the video project moves with it. They're linked together. So every photo, every song, every text element, everything you add to your layers is locked in position relative to the video, and as you make changes to the video, everything else just moves with it, which is perfectly normal and perfectly logical. That's how it's supposed to work, and it really begs the question why PowerDirector doesn't work that way, to be honest. It's a complete mystery to me. I don't get it at all. I went back in the history and I could see people asking this same question about PowerDirector years and years and years and years ago. So it's been an issue for people forever, and yet Cyberlink, the company that makes PowerDirector, never changed it, never updated it, never fixed the problem. And I guess it's a good business decision for them. They must have concluded that most of their users don't care about this, but I certainly care. So I switched to Kinemaster. And Kinemaster is more sophisticated as well, because that is the default behavior where your photograph is locked to its position relative to the video. That's the default. But you can override the default if you wish and lock that photograph to the time, to a timestamp. So you can actually pin it in place and then have the video move independently of the photo, independently of the song. And it's difficult to explain why you might want to do that, but there are many situations where you want the photo to be locked to the video, and there are other situations where you want the photo at a specific time in the video. So you can pin it to the time, or you can leave it to the default and have it linked to the video. So it's it's perfectly logical, perfectly normal, and there are, just off the top of my head, I could list a dozen more advantages to using Kinemaster, but I won't I won't go into that. That's going to be getting a little bit too technical, but I'm much happier using Kinemaster. The one thing I miss about PowerDirector, I really miss all the music, because you got a large music library from Shutterstock that came with the PowerDirector license, and I can't use those songs. They don't transfer over to Kinemaster. You only have the license to use them in a project you create in PowerDirector. I can't take those songs and put them in another project in Kinemaster. So I don't have access to that music anymore, and I don't have access to the stock photos or the stock video clips. But to me, that is a small price to pay compared to all the other features that Kinemaster offers. So that was another one of my technology adventures, as I said. Another technology adventure that took up some of my time this past week was a very fun one, and it involved the shopping website Lazada. I've used Lazada in Malaysia in the past, and it worked pretty well. And I tried to use it here in Thailand, but I ran into a roadblock constantly for some reason. I think on my old phones, if I remember right, the Lazada app, the actual application, wouldn't work properly. So I was logging into Lazada on the Google, Chrome website. I would go to the Lazada website, log into my account there, and everything always showed up in Thai. I could not get it to switch to English. And occasionally I would fight through all the Thai and actually place an order with my address here in Mesot, and then by the time I got to the actual payment stage, then I would run into trouble. Either they would not accept my credit card because it's a Canadian card, or more likely my bank in Canada would flag the transaction as suspicious or potentially fraudulent, and they would block the transaction and then freeze my credit card. And then I have to call my bank in Canada and explain to them, it was me, I'm in Thailand. I've called them, I can't even tell you how many times I've called my bank in Canada to tell them where I am and that it's me using my card. But for whatever reason, there's no way in their computer system to record that information. So every single time I try to do anything overseas, anywhere, my bank in Canada blocks it, marks it as fraudulent, and freezes my accounts every single time. And I have to call them to clear up the confusion. And it's like the bane of my existence. So I just gave up on online anything here in Thailand. It was just impossible to do. But with the power of my new phone, and when I was busy, setting everything up and installing everything, I thought, well, let's try that Lazada app. And I installed the Lazada app, and to my surprise, it loaded perfectly. I could log into my Lazada account for Thailand, and everything came up in English. So I thought, well, let's give this a try. I had a long list in my mind of all these little gadgets, little doodads, little adapters that I need for my world of the GoPro that I've got going on, that I can't find anywhere. I can't find them in shops here. Nobody sells the sorts of things that I need, but I could get them on Lazada. So I filled my shopping cart with a whole bunch of these tiny little items, none of them very expensive, none of them very exciting, so I don't really need to talk about them much. And then I got to the very end, and I got to the payment option, and I thought, well, I don't know, let's give it a try. I entered my credit card information, all the details that they need. I hit the Pay Now button. You check out, Pay Now, confirm your address. Crossed my fingers, closed my eyes, and I concentrated really hard. It was like, please, 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 please. And it went through. The payment was accepted for some bizarre reason. And I had an order in for all these little gadgets that I needed. And to my amazement, all of these items were shipped almost instantly. I mean, it was so fast, it blew my mind. It was like I hit the Pay Now button, and then I was getting notifications that these items were in boxes and being picked up and being shipped. I finished this, I think, on the afternoon of whatever day it was. The next morning, packages started to arrive at the guest house. It was that fast. I put in the order in the afternoon. This was all in Bangkok. All these items were in Bangkok. They shipped them out that night. They arrived in Mesot at my guest house the next morning. It was astonishing. So that was a lot of fun, getting all these items. And I was so excited by this that I thought, well, there are a couple of other things I could use. And I went back onto Lazada. I filled up my shopping cart again. I hit the Pay Now button. Nope. Life went back to normal. My bank in Canada flagged it as potentially fraudulent, blocked the transaction, and froze my credit card, and I was unable to complete the purchase. So my happiness, my shopping happiness was very short-lived, that's for sure. Yeah. So I started looking for alternatives. And there is this thing in Lazada that they call the Lazada wallet. So you actually have this wallet in your Lazada account, and you can add money to your wallet. You top it up, basically. You top up your wallet, and then when you have cash in your wallet, you can use that to pay for these items that you want to buy. So I thought, okay, why don't we figure out how to do that? So I went through the process. From what I could figure out, once I had a Lazada wallet, I could just go to 7-Eleven. So I could go to 7-Eleven and say, okay, put $100 in my Lazada wallet, and now I have $100 to spend on Lazada. I thought that would be ideal. I don't need my bank in Canada anymore. I don't need my evil credit card anymore. Seemed amazing. So I went through the process. That was a lot of fun. At the very beginning of setting up your Lazada wallet, you have a choice. You can say, I am a Thai citizen, or I am a foreigner. So of course I clicked on foreigner, and then I had to use my phone's camera to take a picture of my passport. And this is kind of interesting because I took a picture of my passport, and then their system automatically populated all the information fields about me. It managed to pull my name and passport number, expiry date, place of issue, all the details for my passport were taken from that photograph and then put into the Lazada system automatically. And then I had to take a selfie with my phone. I had to follow their instructions. And this is me in my life. Do these things happen to other people? I honestly, I don't know. I feel akin to like Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, because all the things that happen to those guys in their fictional world happen to me in the real world all the time. So, for example, I had to take a selfie of myself while I had Lazada loaded up, but I had to follow certain instructions. But with my failing eyesight, I can't read the instructions on the phone. So I have to put on my reading glasses and read the instructions, but then I can't press the button because I'm wearing the glasses. So I have to kind of figure out what I'm supposed to do, take off my glasses, but now I can't, all I see is fuzziness now, and I don't know where to click anymore. You know, I can't read the instructions anymore, because to activate the camera, you're supposed to blink. You don't push a button or anything, you're supposed to blink, I figured out. So, so I'm sitting here going like, okay, oh no, what's that? And then I gotta put this down, blink really fast, and then it takes the picture, right? And of course, my first couple attempts didn't work at all. I wasn't framed properly, I wasn't holding it far enough away, the lighting wasn't right, because I guess their computers have to take that photograph, compare it to the passport photograph, and if they don't match, it rejects it. So I had to do it a few times in order to get it right, you know, my glasses, you know, blinking like crazy. And yeah. Anyway, I eventually got it done, and I had my Lazada wallet approved. I was so excited. And then I went to top it up. I figured out the whole process to do it through 7-Eleven, but of course, for whatever reason, on my account, probably because I'm a foreigner, I do not have the 7-Eleven option. I can top up my account through a bank. Like if I have a local bank account, I can go into my local bank and transfer money into my Lazada wallet. But of course, I don't have a local bank account. I was hoping to do it through 7-Eleven, but after I went through this whole long process, it was a lot of fun, so I don't really mind. But at the end of it, I found out I wasn't able to use the 7-Eleven option, which I was counting on. So that was a dead end as well. But then I had a brainstorm, which never in a million years would have occurred to me, but a friend of mine here in Mesa that I was talking to a while back, I was telling him one of my stories of all the problems I always face, and he said, why don't you do COD, like cash on delivery? Like many Lazada sellers, they will accept cash on delivery. And I just kind of dismissed that out of hand because in my world, I can't even get my credit card to work. You think I'm going to be able to get cash on delivery as a foreign tourist staying at a guest house? Nah, that's never going to work. So I never even looked into it. But there was one item, one product that I was really interested in, that was really important to me, and I thought, maybe it's a possibility. So I went into the Lazada website, I went to the Lazada store for this item, I went through all their payment options, and they said way down at the bottom, COD was an option. So yeah, I loaded up my shopping cart and I hit place order, and then I went to the payment options, scrolled all the way down at the bottom, and way down at the bottom, there it was, COD. I never in a million years would have thought it would work for me. It will work for other people. I'm sure for everyone on the planet, COD works all the time, but I was convinced that for me, it was not going to be a possibility. But I clicked on COD and it went through, and I got a notification within, again, like 15 minutes that my items were being packed up and were waiting for a pickup by the delivery company. So now I'm just waiting for this box to arrive here in Mesa, and I just give cash to the driver when he drops it off. So an entire world of shopping has opened up to me. I'm pretty excited about that. But of course, not everything is perfect in the world of Lazada, even though I have the app working now. And I can figure out various ways of payment, such as COD, which is a lot of fun. I guess the one issue with COD is that I now have to be physically present at the guest house when the guy arrives so that I can give him the money. Or I have to give the money to my landlady, and I mean, that would work, I'm sure, but it could open up a world of confusion and misunderstandings. Anytime I try to deal with anything practical with my landlady at the Green Guest House, we end up lost in the weeds of confusion. I never know what she's talking about, and she never knows what I'm talking about. So I really do not want to get her involved in paying for deliveries as they arrive. I'd rather take care of that myself. So I have to sort of be there when the package arrives. But it's not easy to figure out when the thing is going to arrive. I'm currently waiting for something, a very important something, and I've gotten, I don't know, at least 5 different estimates of when this thing is going to arrive. It said originally it will get here by tomorrow, Sunday, January 24th. But I've got another notification that says it will arrive on Monday the 25th. Another notification said it would arrive between the 26th and the 28th. And then I got a notification yesterday saying, and I'll read this. This was on January 22nd. Our courier will attempt to deliver your parcel within the next working day, which is today. So, but even though it says we'll deliver it tomorrow, at the very top it says your estimated delivery date is Sunday, the day after tomorrow. So I don't know what the heck is going on. And I can't really figure things out because they give you a lot of information about where this package is, but it's not in human speak. So it says it arrived at logistics facility, then departed from logistics facility and is on the way to the logistics hub. And I guess they know what that means, but I don't know where that means. Where is the logistics facility? Where is the hub? You know, it would be a lot better if it said, you know, arrived at our facility in Bangkok and it is now on its way to our facility in Mae or Tak. You know, it's on its way to the logistics hub. Okay, that's wonderful. But what is the logistics hub? It doesn't actually say. So there is definitely some confusion there, some wrinkles they could work out to make that a little bit better. And apparently I screwed up on another order because I was very careful to order everything that I knew was physically in Bangkok. One of my favorite companies right now is Ulanzi. And Ulanzi is based in China, but they make amazing accessories for GoPros. They make items that are just beautifully made, high quality, at a good price. So I'm a big fan of Ulanzi products. But the problem with Ulanzi is they're in China, and when I try to order from the Ulanzi website, they also just block the payment. They won't accept payment from me. So that was closed. So I was looking for Ulanzi products sold by sellers based in Bangkok. I found something I wanted from Ulanzi, something really interesting. I ordered it from this Bangkok seller who said it is in Bangkok and therefore I should get it within the next 2 days or something like that. I placed the order. This was part of the payment one, the one where the payment went through on my credit card. But then, as soon as I placed the order, it said it is now being shipped from our facility in China. And of course, coming out of China, now I had this long arrow saying, well, it has to go from here to here in China. Then it has to clear customs. Then it has to go from customs in China to Hong Kong, and then from Hong Kong to here, from there to... And it's going all over the place, and it was held up in customs for several days. And that was the one thing I was trying to avoid. I wanted to get nothing out of China because I didn't want to deal with customs in China. But no matter how careful I was, I still ended up ordering something coming from China, and it got stuck in customs at China. But it did eventually clear customs. That was, yeah, what did they say? It's a lot of fun monitoring all this stuff online. Yeah, customs clearance success with an exclamation mark. And then it was being prepared for delivery, and it went to 88 Bag Hub. Then it departed from logistics facility and arrived at logistics facility, and that's at 05 LAS Hub. And I guess all of this means something to somebody, but it doesn't mean anything to me. So I wouldn't mind a little sprinkling of human language in there. Arrived in Bangkok, leaving Bangkok, arrived in Mae, you know, that kind of thing. Give me some geography instead of the 05 LAS Hub and the 88 Bag Hub. I don't know what these places are. But overall, my shopping experience on Lazada, other than these wrinkles, has been quite successful. So my world of gadgets and accessories for the GoPro has improved tremendously. And there's one product, I'll tell you about it briefly. It's from an American company called RAM Mounts. You can look at their website online. It's capital RAM, like the animal Ram, or the Dodge Ram. They're called RAM Mounts, and they make a whole bunch of really interesting mounting options for smartphones, laptops, tablets, and for GoPros. And if these products work the way I hope, they might become my go-to system for everything to do with scooters and bicycles, because the items that I'm interested in, you can attach them to bicycle handlebars, motorcycle handlebars, scooter grips, and to GoPro buckle mounts. You can sort of combine them all in different ways. So I only ordered one item from them so far. I want to test out this one mounting system, see how it works, see whether I like it, and if it works as well as I hope. I hope to invest in a few more of these RAM mounts. And yeah, motorcycle. So I'm pretty excited about that. And luckily the RAM mounts, they had a distributor in Bangkok and they had the items in Bangkok. I was a bit worried that once I placed my order, they would have to order them from the United States, so we'd have to wait for shipment from the US. But they had the items in Bangkok, and they are currently, winging their way towards me. And they have arrived at their logistics facility, wherever that is. And I'll get them either today or tomorrow, I think. And maybe I'll do a quick unpackaging, unboxing when it arrives. Because I think all the other items I ordered, they're not that exciting. They're exciting to me, but not to anybody else. But this RAM mount system, I think is pretty exciting. So maybe I'll do a little bit of an unboxing when that arrives. And I think that is it for my technology adventures of the past week, which is one of the reasons I haven't been on YouTube very much, but the dust is settling on all of that. I've got my orders out there on Lazada, waiting for them to arrive. I've got my Kinemaster loaded on my smartphone. I'm using that to edit video now. So life is slowly getting back to normal. And we'll see what that means for posting videos onto YouTube soon. And so my coffee afternoon at Braverly comes to a close. My fireside chat about my life over the past week or so. Almost back at the guest house. Be interesting to see if there's like a stack of packages waiting for me. Though I don't think so. There are just 2 packages outstanding. One of them coming from China, which is still the slowest one of all. I don't know where it is located right now. And the other one should arrive tomorrow. And that's the one I have to pay for when it arrives. My cash on delivery from RAM Mounts. I'm very excited about that one. And that's it.